What is up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? Welcome to episode 67 of the Be Great podcast. Today it's going to be a simple episode, but it's going to be a heated episode, and I'm going to tell you why. I am going to title this episode The Rant of No. Should I do it? The Rant of Paul Finebaum? A rant on Paul Finebaum? Something like that. Basically, I'm going to rant about Paul Finebaum because he's been pissing me off. Two things in particular have stuck out to me that to me feel hypocritical and just extremely crazy that Paul Finebaum has said. One of the actually, I think both were on First Take, actually on ESPN. One he said, I think yesterday, and the other one he said probably about a week or two ago. But to me, they connect because it shows the hypocrisy of Paul Finebaum. Okay, so we're gonna get into it. First of all, we'll start with what he said. I don't remember exactly when it was. It was a week or two ago, and it went everywhere like a firestorm when he said it. Essentially, Paul Finebaum was talking about Arch Manning, and as we have come to find out, Paul Finebaum seems to be Arch Manning's biggest fan. I think he has a poster of Arch Manning on his bedroom wall, probably right above his bed, if we're being honest. But on ESPN, he said that Arch Manning may be the best college football quarterback since Tim Tebow. I just want to let that sentence sink in for a moment to you who's listening. Just let that sink in. Arch Manning is the best, maybe, sorry, he didn't say is, maybe the best college football quarterback since Tim Tebow. And you may be asking yourself, well, what's so bad about that? He said maybe. It's not like he said he already is. The problem with that is, so he's just, he just might be the third best, or not the third, the top five best college football quarterbacks ever, is what you're essentially saying. And my issue is that, look, I understand that we try and see into the future with these guys somewhat, but it's not like we don't have any sample size out of Arch. He played 3 games last year. He started 3 games last year. Okay, so we have something from Arch, and it was fine. It wasn't anything out of this world. And he came in at spots. Although when he came in against Georgia, Georgia lit him up. But I digress because he wasn't the full time starter, so I'll give him a slight pass on that. But my issue is that when people do this, when analysts or fans or whoever, the media, does this with players, I hate when they do this with players because you do more to disservice a player by doing this nonsense because you set a bar so high, and the kid, it's not like Arch Manning came out and said, I may be the best quarterback since Tim Tebow. No. You have a media person, Paul Finebaum, who's coming out and saying this for no reason, and you're just setting these lofty expectations on this kid for no reason. And what are these expectations coming from exactly? His 3 games against Mississippi State, who was the worst team in the SEC last year, only won 2 total games. Louisiana Monroe and the University of Texas San Antonio. Is that what we're doing? In which, by the way, in that game against Louisiana Monroe, he was 15 for 29, barely over 50% passer completion percentage, 2 touchdowns, but also 2 interceptions. I mean, is that what we're talking about right now? Or UTSA, right? He only threw 12 passes. I mean, Mississippi State, he was 26 for 31. That's an 84% completion percentage. But as I said, it was Mississippi State. And you're just setting these lofty expectations right off the bat. And for what? And for what? And in conjunction with with what he said yesterday, it just makes him look stupid and like a hypocrite. Yesterday, he goes on First Take and they ask him, who do you feel better about going into 2025, Alabama or Georgia? And of course, he says Alabama because that's always his answer. And look, if you really believe Alabama's in a better spot, that's whatever. That's your opinion, right? That's fine. And if it stopped there, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you about Paul Finebaum. The issue is his reasoning. His reasoning is because apparently Georgia feels stuck in time, whatever that's supposed to mean. And secondly, he then goes on to say, "Oh, Georgia's playoff game against or playoff performance against Notre Dame was ghastly." And I just couldn't help but sit there and think to myself, "Oh man, well, Alabama's playoff performance was pretty ghastly. Oh, wait, they didn't even make it." And why didn't they make it? Because they got destroyed by Oklahoma, didn't even score a touchdown, by the way. And oh, yeah, that's right. They lost to Vanderbilt. They let Vanderbilt drop 40 on their heads and lost. They lost to a Tennessee team who got annihilated by Ohio State in the first round. So don't come here telling me, oh my gosh, Georgia's game against Notre Dame, it was ghastly. Alabama didn't even make the playoffs. They lost. Was Alabama's game against Vanderbilt not ghastly? What about their game against Oklahoma where they only scored 3 points? Was that not ghastly? Was that not ghastly enough for you, Paul? And then he goes into the typical response that has been aggravating me with this upcoming season when people talk about Georgia, because they talk about Georgia the way they don't talk about other teams that have first year starters. I have barely heard anybody talk about Julian Sayin at Ohio State. Everyone just like assumes he'll be great. Everyone just assumes Arch will be great off of a 3-game sample size against garbage. Everyone just assumes Ty Simpson at Alabama is going to be just fine based off what? Gunnar Stockton, you actually have something to lean on, okay? He came in the second half against Texas and brought us back to win an SEC championship. Period. None of the other ones have done that you've talked about. None of them. When Arch came in against Georgia in the regular season, he looked lost. Lost. And in the Notre Dame game, as I have stated 1,000 times, Gunnar Stockton is not the reason we lost to Notre Dame. He's not even in the top 20 of reasons. The O-line couldn't block. He was running for his life. It was Swiss cheese. That's what that offensive line was. It had so many holes, okay? The wide receivers, as I discussed all season, were garbage. Dylan Bell, for some reason, he's still on my football team. Trash can. Arian Smith, trash. Could not catch a football. So don't start with me about, oh my gosh, Gunnar, he's mid, he's mid. And he goes and says, well, Gunnar Stockton, he's not elite. Oh, so you can say Gunnar's not elite, but you think Arch is elite based off what? Based off what? That he may be the best quarterback since Tim Tebow. Based off what, Paul? Based off what? Against Notre Dame, Gunnar Stockton threw for over 230 yards, a 63% completion percentage, which is solid. It's fine. It's good enough. No turnovers. He didn't turn the ball over, and he threw a touchdown. I mean, that's fine. That's fine. Is it out of this world? No. But when has it ever needed to be out of this world for us? The problem was that the defense couldn't stop Notre Dame when it mattered. The wide receivers can't catch. Trevor Etienne fumbled the football in a pivotal moment when we were marching down the field. Like, what are we talking about right now? Like, honestly. Not to mention, when you look at the context of that game, it was Gunner's first actual start. It was his first. He didn't get to do what Arch did and start against UTSA and Louisiana Monroe and Mississippi State. No. He had to start against Notre Dame in a playoff game. A good Notre Dame team who, may I remind you, was in the national championship. Who also has a new quarterback that everyone just assumes will be good, by the way. As you can tell, it is driving me insane. Because the disingenuousness when people talk about Georgia this upcoming season and when they talk about other teams is crazy to me. It's crazy. Like, I think Georgia in the next, let's say, including this upcoming season, let's say, I think Georgia in the next 3 seasons 100% wins a national championship. I think I think Kirby has been doing very well recruiting these past few years, including this year. Georgia currently has the number 1 class, even though a 5-star linebacker who we were favored for went to Texas, and Texas flipped a 5-star who was committed to Georgia. We still have the number 1 class. What does that tell you? But we're stuck in time, according to Paul Finebaum. Also, I find it convenient that Steve Sarkisian, the same day in SEC Media Day, where he goes, well, we don't want it to be, transactional. We don't want kids who just want to come here for money. And then he gets 2 recruits that day where he clearly paid them a bunch of money last minute. But I digress. And we already know last year with, oh my gosh, what was his name? Justice something. We already know he paid a bunch of money for that. We already know Texas, salary-wise, has the most expensive roster. So don't even, Steve, do not even come with that nonsense that it's not transactional. We don't want people here who just want money. Yes, you do, bro. Yes, you do. You throw your oil money at these players. Just shut up. That's why they played Texas A&M's fight song when you walked up there. Garbage. But that's all right. I digress. But as you can see, I am aggravated. With these incorrect narratives. But as I said, I think Georgia wins one of these next 3. Could they win all 3? Probably not, but maybe. Could they win 2 of the 3? Maybe. But they'll at least win 1. That's my belief, based off how I feel the roster is now and will be in the next couple years. And especially because this year, as I have said, I think this year I think it's wide open this year as far as who can win the national championship. I don't think there's one team this year that is just so far and away clearly the best team on paper. I think there's a bunch of teams that are kind of around that top tier, like I've talked 1,000 times about how much I love LSU's roster. It's still not, leaps and bounds above everybody else, and we don't know if we can trust Brian Kelly, and we'll have to just see how they do, Clemson has a great roster. Again, it's not, but like these past few years, there has been that team roster-wise that has been leaps and bounds above everybody else. Everyone knew Ohio State had the best roster going into last year. The year before that, people knew Michigan had the best roster, although they didn't deserve the national championship because they cheated. And I still think and still say Georgia would have beat them. Just putting that out there. And then the 2 years before that, Georgia clearly had the best roster, clearly. But that's not really the case this year. Like, there's a lot of teams that have great rosters, Texas has a great roster. Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, LSU. I think Oregon, Greyt is probably a stretch. I think you're going to see some fall off from Oregon, which is why I think Ohio State wins the conference, especially with Evan Stewart being out. You know, people claim Penn State has a great roster. No, they do not. It is good at best. Good at best. Clemson has a great roster, right? But and look, by the time we get to the playoffs, could there be a team that has proven that yeah, we're the best team clearly? Sure. But as of right now, you can't really say a singular team is far and away. And if you do say that, I think you're jumping the gun, and I think you are coping. That's what I think. So that's what I mean when I say I think this season is very wide open. Um, but we'll see. And look, if you're James Franklin at Penn State, this is your best opportunity this year, I think, to win a national championship. Even though I don't think you will, I actually I don't think you will. I know you won't. I know you won't because it's James Franklin and it's Penn State. They're not going to win the national championship. You want to know why? I should make a T-shirt that says what I'm about to say next because I say it almost every episode. But do you want to know why Penn State won't win a national championship? Say it with me, folks. Because Drew Aller sucks. That's why. That is why. I hope you have enjoyed this episode. This was good. This was like therapy for me, getting all of this rage out of my body, out of my chest. You know what I'm saying? It was building up listening to Paul Finebaum speak nonsense these past few weeks, and I just needed to say it. And when I got that notification on my phone, him going on First Take yesterday morning, spewing nonsense, it gave me the perfect opportunity to do this. And so yeah, I hope you have a great day wherever you are out there in the universe. And don't forget to always go out there and be great.